Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Ryan Schallenberger, and I am the Marketing Manager here at Reveille Software. Today, we are talking about Reveille for Hyland Content Systems as a follow-up to the Hyland Community Live Show. You may have met our presenters who were in attendance at the show. Bob Howitt is Reveille's VP of Sales. He will be covering the first part of this presentation. Then Kieran Fox, Reveille's Senior Pre-Sales Consultant, will give a demonstration of what Reveille for Hyland OnBase looks like. First, we'd just like to say thank you. Our team met many of you at the Community Live show in Las Vegas, and we trust that you had a wonderful experience. And we definitely appreciate the opportunity to connect with you in person. We hope the show was beneficial for you, and we're excited for today as a follow-up to those in-person discussions. Today, here's our agenda. Bob Howitt will give further details on Reveille, who we are, what we do, and our immense value if your organization works with Hyland Content Systems. Kieran then will provide a demonstration of this functionality, showcasing Reveille for Hyland OnBase. We will then cover any questions that you had during the presentation, and finally we'll go over next steps. If you do have a question, please the Q&A function on your screen, and we'll either have time to answer it now or follow up with it shortly after the webinar. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Bob Howitt to dive into the details about Reveille.
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you for joining us today on this webinar. Again, we do thank you for attending the Community Live event and talking to us in a booth, and we learned a lot from you during that session, and we're going to cover some of that material today. The way I'm going to cover this portion of the demonstration presentation is I have one slide, which you're looking at now, that covers Reveille as a company, who we are, what we do, how we do it. I have 5 PowerPoint slides that's going to go over how we do it in more detail and show you some of the architectural slides that describe how we do it. And then I'm going to turn it over to Kieran, and he's going to provide you a live demo. As you'll see here, Reveille is a software company that focuses all of its energies on designing, developing, producing, and running monitoring solutions for this area called enterprise content management. What that means, and you folks who are at Community Live, we focus on things like Hyland OnBase, Alfresco, and RPA, as well as solutions offered by OpenText, IBM, Box, Kofax, and Microsoft. So pretty much if your company and organization are utilizing leading edge products, content products for tier 1 and tier 2 applications, we have a monitoring solution for you. We do this with an architecture that provides for agentless code and it's low code. We build out a monitoring solution for your environment without having to do any coding. It's all configuration. And as you can see on the lower model on the left-hand side of your screen, we do this for applications that are either on-prem, in the cloud, in hybrid clouds, or any permutation thereof. If you look at the screen now, what we consider a common ECN environment revolves around archiving, content management, and capture. Those are the 3 main components, with robotic processes now being used to actually help move information along. But this is the area in the middle of the screen here in orange that we focus our energies on. But as you see here, these tier 1 applications utilizing content systems in the makeup of the applications can't live in a vacuum alone. You have to be able to monitor these systems in detail, but you also have to be able to have a system that communicates and works with the other systems that you have currently in your environment, like network management products, databases, storage devices, incident management, and event management. Over time, although we focus our energies in managing these complex content systems, we also have the ability to connect, monitor, and watch all of the other systems that are going on in your environment. We do this with 2 primary pieces of code. On the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see we have something called the Reveille platform code. And that's the code that we put on a server in your environment, whether it's cloud on-prem or a different permutation. And that's the code that we point at things like OnBase or Alfresco. What that code contains is about 60 out-of-the-box tests that examine the performance of all of the underlying processes that go on in an OnBase and an Alfresco. It's also the code that has the notification and the alert engine. So when we see something starting to go wrong in your OnBase or Alfresco environment, we can send an alert and a notification to those responsible. On the right-hand side, you'll see we have something called Reveille User Analytics code. That's the code that we put on another server, and we point that at your application servers so that we can capture the web traffic. By doing so, we can capture what the individual users are doing with the information that's being stored in an OnBase or an Alfresco. We do that for two reasons. We do that to capture performance information, and we do that to capture insider threat detection type of information. In addition to those two pieces of code, over time, we've built out many, let's say, systems management applications for your use. The basis for these solution packs, or what we call them, the basis and the underpinning of this are tests that already exist inside of Reveille Platform User Analytics. For example, we have a large customer in a state government that has 29 different state agencies using an HR application that uses a large content system. We have the ability to capture what those users are doing, and we can group those users into different agencies or departments so that we can provide enough information to do proper chargeback to the 29 agencies that are utilizing that large complex HR system. Now, at a high level, how does Reveille do this? So we have these code lines, platform, and we have user analytics. And what we do is the code that's running, we fire tests at an OnBase or an Alfresco, and we pull that information back to a Reveille database. And we have tests for OnBase and Alfresco. We have tests for OnBase and Brainware. We have infrastructure tests, and we have RPA tests. All these tests are pre-written, pre-developed, and they go against those systems, and they bring the information back to a Reveille database. Once it's in our database, that's how we populate the pre-built consoles, the dashboards, reports. As I said earlier, we have an alert and notification engine, and we have out-of-the-box integrations with over 35 leading other systems that you may have in your environment, things like Splunk, things like ServiceNow, and many of the others. At a high level, the way our architecture works is simple. For the platform code, we put the Reveille code on the platform server on the lower right, and we point it at the enterprise content management systems that you're using. We also talked about the Reveille user analytics code that sits on another server, and we point that at the application server to pick up that web traffic. We bring that information back to a Reveille database, and then we splurge that information into a consolidated database so that we can populate the dashboards and the reports and do the integration we need. I'm now going to turn it over to Kieran, and Kieran's going to provide you a demo of what we've just talked about.
Thanks, Bob. Before I jump into the Reveille demonstration, I thought it'd be worthwhile introducing a set of documents that are available on our website. Reveille provides technical overview documents for each of the supported Hyland Content Services products. These technical documents cover in detail what Reveille monitors and manages for each of the Hyland supported platforms. So for example, the Reveille for Hyland OnBase Technical Overview, which I'm now showing, discusses the over 70 Reveille OnBase tests, dashboard metrics, and user analytic capabilities. Also, all of the Reveille proactive actions that can be implemented based on issue detection. There are also technical overviews for both Hyland Alfresco and Hyland RPA. Now let's get into the Reveille for OnBase demonstration. Typically, the first interaction with Reveille is a notification. This could be a post in Microsoft Teams, email notification, or passing an alert to a trouble ticketing system. For example, it could be via Microsoft Teams, Microsoft 365 email, Slack, ServiceNow, Splunk, or any application that can receive a notification via published API or other defined standard interface. The key is receiving a notification when, or even before, something significant happens. The organization defines what is significant, so we do not send multiple notifications that are not required. We see timely flags when something is happening on the system that is of interest. Once we've reviewed our notification, we open the Reveille user console. This is where we investigate any issues that Reveille has encountered. The first screen we can see is the Reveille system status. This tells us what is running within Reveille and what is being monitored, who has been notified of any issues, etc. We next drill down into the Reveille system. This is where we can start to get a view of not only our on-base platform, but the whole of our content management environment. It shows all the elements that are being managed and monitored within Reveille. You can see I've structured the Reveille environment based on product. We are monitoring content management, capture, archive, and collaboration systems. Typically, in a production environment, we'd likely not structure our monitor by product. Monitors are usually structured by server, functional area, or business area. This is defined by the organization's requirements and who is managing the environment. For example, somebody from security may want to see how the platform is being used, so they would only look at a certain set of monitors, checking for unusual content access. Alternatively, an IT admin may want to see how all content management servers are running and user performance. Access to these monitors within Reveille can be dependent on an individual's role. We can also group these monitors in different ways. We might group them by location or by department. So again, this gives us flexibility in structuring Reveille in a way that best meets the organization's requirements. If we go back to our monitors, the next thing we can see is the monitors are different colors. The color represents the severity status of the monitor. The orange monitors have a warning, the green monitors have no issue. We can filter on status and only look at monitors with issues or warnings. We can also filter by name. This allows us to quickly access the monitors of interest and go directly to the area we need to manage. Next, I'll open the on-base monitor and drill down to the next level of detail. The boxes you can see within the monitor diagram are called Reveille resources. Resources allow us to structure the monitor based on the organization's system and requirements. You can see we've structured this based on different areas of content management functionality. So again, we can see Reveille's flexibility and its ability to allow an organization to manage its environment in a way that makes sense to them. Across the top of the monitor, you can see different tabs, allowing us to access monitor-related data. Status allows us to look at the monitor resources in more detail. We can also open those resources to view the tests within them and the status of each test. We can look at captured issues via the log, test response times, the number of incidents we've encountered and how many have been resolved. We can see who has been notified of issues. We can view metrics. As the test runs against the content services environment, we can gather data. This data is held within a Reveille metric. Multiple metrics over time allow us to produce trending analysis. We do this because it provides us with an historic view of the systems that are being monitored and how they are performing over a period. There are over 80 plus on-base metrics available. We can look at this data and assess what's acceptable performance and usage, and define a baseline which we can evaluate against. If an evaluation fails, we can then flag it and raise a notification via one of the channels we discussed earlier. Reveille also gathers what we call user analytics data. If we open up a Reveille dashboard, we can see this data. User analytics data covers what end users are doing within the system and how the system is performing for them. When a user interacts with the system via a web-based interface, such as web client or REST API custom app, Reveille looks for the packets at the start and the end of a content services transaction. When Reveille sees these transactions, it extracts the relevant data and creates a user content services transaction within Reveille. Reveille works to observe on-base application activity. It does not intercept the transaction activity, so it has no effect on the application performance. It provides on-base user transaction visibility with context. You can see the type of on-base business transactions available could be anything from search, logging in, logging out, deleting a document, exporting a document, etc. Typically, with each transaction, Reveille gathers when the transaction took place, who carried out the transaction, what the transaction was, the duration of the transaction, the server and client IP addresses and ports, the repository the user was connecting to, and any related transaction properties such as custom fields associated with a particular transaction. So for example, with a search transaction, the custom fields could potentially hold the search criteria. On a view document, they can contain the document name and document size. With this unique capability, transaction performance is no longer subjective. Reveille can gather the true nature of the transaction. Also, all of the above fields can be sorted upon, and specific fields can be excluded or masked to meet security requirements. It's a combination of this transactional data and metric data that allows Reveille to provide insight into how the system has been used and how it is performing, and whether or not it is working correctly for the end users. Dashboards allow us to visualize this data. Here you can see different types of user activity. When a user logs in and out of a specific on-base repository, the number of transactions completed, how many documents were checked in, checked out, etc. To do this without Reveille is difficult. You may have to turn on content management system features, such as low-level interface tracing, additional database or file logging, or try divergent log correlation approaches, and that can have an adverse effect on system performance. This dashboard is focused on on-base system and application performance. Performance and operation monitoring can be dependent on the type of system we are monitoring. For example, when we monitor an on-base environment, we may be interested in session counts, query times, user counts, batch committed processing, workflow queues, license usage, database maintenance processing, etc. For the capture environment, we could be interested in document processing counts, document export counts, documents untouched, and document aging for DIP, EDI, cold, and scan methods. We may also be interested in CPU usage, memory usage, the amount of disk group space remaining, thread counts, etc. across all the systems we are monitoring. Here we're looking at the transactional data from a behavioral point of view. We're looking at how many documents have been exported. We can also see it's been evaluated. If more than 30 documents are exported, Reveille will flag this as it may be a security issue. This requirement is from a customer. They wanted to know if anyone exported a lot of content overnight. So the customer schedule and evaluation start from 7 p.m. at night to 8 a.m. the following morning, so they could see if anyone came in overnight to download a lot of content. If they did, security would be notified, and if required, the user could automatically be disabled. Reveille provided insight and control they never had before. Also, if we scroll down, we can see the data presented in different ways. For example, the same user but with a different IP address. What this is saying is if one user ID had been used to log in multiple locations at the same time, it might be that the user ID has been compromised, and Reveille can trigger an action to disable user access. Dashboards are very helpful, but we may also want to produce static reports on this data. These dashboards can be manually or automatically produced and sent out on a scheduled basis, or you can publish direct links to the Reveille dashboards to access them from a secure URL or a widget in a performance management portal, or save the dashboards to your favorite cloud storage such as Microsoft OneDrive. If I go to the reports and click on applications, I can produce a report to tell me what a specific user has been doing on the system. I filter the report for a certain time frame and what the user is doing. Reveille also provides performance reports. Here we're looking at customer experience report that shows how the system is performing for end users. An SLA report shows whether the on-base system is meeting the required service level requirements. Reveille has over 140 REST-based API endpoints, providing access to Reveille data, administration, and operations from other common applications. It also provides trusted data connectors with data visualization and analytics tools such as Microsoft Power BI. This allows you to create your own dashboards and reports using Reveille data with organization data sources. We've looked at how Reveille can identify and notify when issues occur, and then provide the information required to investigate these issues. Reveille allows the organization to look at how the system is being used, how it is performing, and drill down into this information via dashboards and reports. So how do we set up Reveille to allow us to do all of this? The Reveille administration console is where we carry out most of our configuration. If we open the monitor we were looking at previously, we can see the monitor structure. We can see the resources it contains, and if we open up one of the resources, we can see the tests within it. You can see by the nature of these tests that we focus our monitoring capability on the content management product's application structure. This functionality comes out of the box. It's simple to create a monitor within Reveille. We can create monitors via templates. If we right-click on an on-base template and select Create via Template, we generate a monitor. We then define the parameters for this monitor, ensuring it is pointing to the correct on-base system. Once we've created the monitor, we might want to add additional tests to it. Reveille provides wizards that enable the definition of new tests for the supporting technology portion of the business-critical content management-based processes, such as the servers, application servers, databases, log files, event logs, application interfaces, etc. What Reveille is enabling is the ability to manage and monitor all elements that support the enterprise content management environment. Creating a test via wizard is a simple process. I select the product and category I want. I select the test, add the configuration details, and click Create. We can now see the test I have created. I can open the configuration details for this test and see the metric associated with it. If we open the metric, we can see how it's managed and evaluated via the metrics manager. We can see there are many different types of evaluation we can carry out. There is also an option for a schedule. This allows us to define exactly when we are going to run these evaluations. Schedules can be applied to monitors, resources, tests, and evaluations. I mentioned earlier that Reveille monitors can be created via monitor templates. Reveille enables this with parameters. Parameterization allows us to remove the values from a monitor that may change and replace them with parameters. This allows us to create a new set of parameters for each new monitor and point them at the correct location. This really speeds up monitor creation time and management. I can now copy a monitor and just create a new set of parameters for the monitor and point them at the correct location. With other solutions, you must rebuild your production monitors from scratch. Reveille's focus is on ease of deployment. If you want to extend Reveille to look at a different area, it's simple to do so. Once we're happy with the monitor, we can run it. Monitors can be run at different intervals as required. We can define when notifications are delivered, and as mentioned earlier, we can schedule a monitor. In this instance, we want to run the monitor now, so I select the monitor and click on the Start Monitor exclamation mark. This starts the monitor and we can see this happening. If Reveille encounters an issue, it will notify the required people via the most appropriate channel, but we might also want to do something about this issue, and this is where Reveille can use a proactive action. We can configure Reveille to carry out proactive actions when it encounters specific issues. This could be automatic or can require confirmation. Reveille can carry out many different actions. As you can see, we have many out-of-the-box actions. They range from starting common on-base services and processes to actions for AWS or Azure public clouds. Reveille can also run PowerShell scripts. This capability allows Reveille to carry out any action that can be completed via PowerShell script, providing great flexibility. The ability to carry out an action to resolve or provide a workaround to an issue ensures the organization reduces to a minimum the impact issues have on the end user and allows the content management administrators to reduce their administration time. If this was our test environment, we might want to take this completed monitor, export it from here, and import it into a production environment. To do that, we go to File, Import Export Wizard, and Export to File. We can then simply go into our production environment and import the monitor. Management also needs to review what's happening with the content management system, and with Reveille there are also ways they can do this. Reveille is device aware and uses responsive web design techniques. So if a manager accesses the console via tablet or mobile device, it is aware of the device they are using and presents the screen appropriately. Management can also go directly to a monitor or dashboard view. These show the relevant monitors and dashboards without having to go through the user console. It provides them quick, simple access. This view could also be placed on a monitor in the organization office, so all users can see how the system is running. So again, dependent on your role within the organization, Reveille presents you with the relevant information in the most appropriate manner. I'll pass back to Ryan now, and we'll cover any questions.
Thank you, Kieran. Hopefully everyone found that demo useful as a follow-up to the discussions that we had at the conference. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the questions that have come in. As a reminder, if your question is not covered here, we will be sure to respond to you as soon as possible after this webinar. Our first question that came in is, what makes it agentless? Can you describe the high-level architecture?
So the first question is, what makes Reveille agentless? Reveille doesn't require any changes to the Hyland on-base system it's monitoring. No agents are required on the server side. No additional tracing needs to be turned on. This means that Reveille is simple to deploy and maintain. Regarding architecture, a simple Reveille deployment requires 2 servers, which can be virtual, one for the Reveille platform and one for Reveille User Analytics. Servers can be deployed on premises, in the cloud, or in a hybrid environment. Reveille also requires an underpinning database.
Awesome. Thanks, Kieran, for that answer. We do have another one that popped in here. The second question is, I like that you have predefined metrics for on-base, but what if I need specific ones and notifications for my users?
So Reveille metrics can be modified and additional metrics can be added if required. Also, the evaluations can be placed on all of the metrics and notifications can be sent through the appropriate channel when evaluations fail.
Great, thanks, Kieran. We're going to go ahead and go over one more question here. Last question is, Bob mentioned other supported platforms that Reveille supports. Do all of them have pre-built metrics?
So that's a simple answer, yes. All the Reveille monitored platforms include predefined metrics.
Okay, great. I think we're going to go ahead and end the Q&A portion right there. And like I said, we will be sure to follow up directly if we haven't had time to do so during this session. We're going to go ahead and wrap up here. I want everyone to know there's resources at your disposal. If you go to our website or specifically go to a product page such as Reveille for OnBase, you will find the ability to download the technical overview, watch a recorded demo, or view other related webinars or resources. Of course, if you'd like to understand how Reveille will benefit your environment, we encourage you to schedule a demonstration with our team. This can be done through our website, but also if you have questions or would like to schedule a demo, you can always just contact Bob Howitt, who did the first part of this presentation, and you can see his email address is on the screen right now. So we'd like to thank you all for joining today. Please do not hesitate to contact us. Thank you.